geography, and technology. So our second speaker for today is Amit Patil. He's a solution architect with over 18 years of consulting experience across multiple industries. He also leads our solution and technology architecture practice. So with this, I would like to hand over the next time to Chandan.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Really appreciate the introduction. Hello everybody. My name is Chandan. It's great pleasure to be speaking with you all today. Thank you for taking out time and attending the webinar. I will take this opportunity to give a quick introduction about Amdan and the service that offer. And then that would be very short. I know everybody is kind of excited to join the main seminar. As an organization, we have started our operations around 9 years back, and that we started it from UK. We have now grown in UK market and currently executing many projects catering to utilities, oil and gas, manufacturing, and consumer goods industry. Just to name few of our customers where we are providing our services are Wells and West Utilities, UK Power Network, Abil, Contiki, etc. We have recently delivered a large SAP Cloud Platform based application, which is being used by more than 300 users. And also currently we are part of a big S4 transformation program for one of our customers in UK. As you can see that we've been growing consistently now. We also felt a need to have an offshore delivery center to support our growing business or clientele. So in 2014, we started our India operation in Pune. And now I'm very proud that we have a well-established offshore delivery center. Also, it hosts our COE, which kind of helps us, our customers in terms of the SME expertise that are required. Our customers our customer footprint is kind of spread across 6 countries, which include UK, Germany, USA, Norway, Netherlands, India. And we are supporting around 15,000 plus users across the globe through our services. We also have a well-established alliance with SAP, which actually helps us provide better support to our customers in terms of SAP's future strategies, a roadmap, how the technology is moving, as we get these updates in advance from SAP, so we could guide our customers accordingly. As you can see, we are a VAR and a build partner, which gives us authorization. Which gives us authority to sell SAP licenses, and we also co-create products with SAP. Currently, we are working with SAP on building some of the apps in Ariba space. With this, I will take you to our service offerings. So next slide, please. As you can see, our solution offering is kind of grouped into 4 broad categories, namely an application services on the left. Then we have cloud computing services. Then we have consulting services and analytical services. So basically, if you see on application services side, mainly we are focused on SAP S4 HANA related services. Also, we have some few niche areas like EWM, VIM, where we are focused. When it comes to cloud computing, we are mainly focused on SaaS products like Ariba, Ariba Spend Management, Fieldglass or Concur, and Service Factors. If you see from cloud application development perspective, our focus is using SAP Cloud Platform. And we are seeing a lot of increasing demand from our customer in area of automation, and where we are providing these services using our expertise in RPA and other areas. Then our third pillar or a category is we have a deep expertise in guiding our customers in areas of ERP implementation or migration. So be it a greenfield implementation or a brownfield implementation, where we want to convert S4, conversion of S4, or it's a transformation. We provide all these kind of services as part of our consulting services. In business analytics area, we have built a good experience, and in data driven analysis, dashboarding, which helps us to guide our customers in right direction. As you know, there are multiple tools available in the area, but the experience where we are able to analyze the data, prepare the dashboard, guide the customers in what kind of dashboard they need is more important. You can also see some of the tools where we have expertise and skills like SAP Cloud Analytics or Power BI, etc. So that was a quick introduction about Amdan, and we would be really happy to discuss with you on your any of your specific requirements in this area. With this, I will not take much of your time, and I will hand it over to Amit to take us through the main topic of our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandan. Really appreciate that. And thank you for all the attendees for joining us today. Hopefully, we'll be able to give you some good overview about SAP Cloud Platform. Um, we have worked on SAP Cloud Platform extensively in last few quarters, almost a year now, and I've gained very strong experience in this area. It's a fairly new area. So I would love to sort of share that experience with you. And as Aishwarya was initially suggesting, I think it's probably better to also show some live demo. We have something planned for you to show in a live system. So just to bring it to life and explain you how the SAP Cloud Platform can be used to leverage and gain value out of this platform. So without further ado, I will go further. And I think just to set some context up, I think there are some interesting facts I would like to call out. As we could see, the world around us is changing fast. There are some key facts which quite sort of came out of when I was doing some analysis. So it's, if you look at this, the Fortune 500 companies have changed from 1995 quite drastically, and only 80, almost 88%, almost 90% companies are sort of moved in Fortune 500 outlook. There are new heavyweights market has seen in recent past. If you look at the German stock exchange, almost 60% of the heavyweights are the new companies like Airbnb, Ubers, the aggregators, Facebooks, and cloud companies like Alibaba. We got almost 168 companies who sort of gone into startup club, which is more than £1 billion capitalization. And we can see since last 2006, we got in top 10 companies, the 70% companies are new. So that gives you a sort of a glimpse of how fast the marketplace is changing, and it literally becomes like in this marketplace is a good example of survival of the fittest, to be honest. And businesses are looking at how they can respond to the opportunities or for that matter threats efficiently, effectively, and that's sort of one of the key priorities for the business leaders, IT leaders these days. With these facts, there just to sort of also call out how the technology is changing. It's, we know that change is constant, but it seems since last few years there's a drastic change in technology as well. I can call out it. If you look at just few facts here, tenfold increase in data that is generated on daily basis. So everything going digital. Everybody has devices. All the data there's a tremendous amount of data which is getting generated these days. devices getting more powerful. Every single device, whether it's a mobile or a laptop, getting more and more powerful. If you look at a graph here, uh, every decade we can see almost doubling of the computing power of the devices. um, and users have changed their habits. The way we watch our mobile, the way we watch our TV, the way we consume our content, rather, using YouTube or Netflix, Prime videos, is drastic change. The consumers are changing, our customers are changing, and we have to have sort of, we have to keep up with the pace, and that's essentially is the challenge that business leaders and IT leaders are facing these days. And that reflects into, shifting our IT strategy. That's thinking about what is our digital strategy, what is our how do we run digital code, um, you know and that's essentially has led to shifting of a traditional on-prem deployments of applications, or managing the application development cycle on premise, to to moving into the cloud computing era, which essentially initially has seen um, infrastructure as a service providers. I think they are pretty common these days. Almost most of you who are on the call today must have come across some infrastructure as a provider in your working atmosphere. And of course, the new era is also opening up for SaaS products. Nobody wants to build products from scratch. In fact, best of breed products are very focused on a particular line of business. May it be an HR applications, for example, Success Factor or Workday, for example, or your CRM, Salesforce. I think that there's a trend that if we can get the best in class just out of shelf, and get our users a world class experience with that in-depth functionalities, why to build things from scratch. So I think the shift is there's a mindset shift happening. And also at the same time, I think the last one is the platform as a service element, or the element of the cloud computing is also on rise. Probably not as percolated as the first two part of it, but then platform as a service is not new to the market as well. Just to sort of, for those who probably is new to this concept, I thought just touching upon quickly what is the difference between infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And just a quick comparison, I think for those who already are familiar with this, I apologize to kind of state the obvious here, but I thought probably it's better to give that context here before we jump to the next details. So on-prem, the traditional scenario where we used to build everything, we used to acquire servers, storages, build our own networks, firewalls, virtualizations, and then worry about operating systems, and then start with application development. Those were the traditional days. Then came along the infrastructure as a service, which allowed us to at least stop worrying about the servers, the storages, and networkings. And then it did require us to think about what runtime environments that we want to operate, what version of that we want to operate, what middlewares like DBMS or BI services we want to operate, etc. And then, of course, the data model of our own application and application development. So it was a step forward. It gave a certain level of flexibility to IT organizations. And then came along. I will jump the platform as a service. Then came along the software as a service, wherein it was more of a plug and play, no upfront cost to pay. Quite nice. And as long as it meets most of the business requirement, it was business users who needs to be trained, and bit of a change management, of course, needs to be managed in that case. But then from IT overhead perspective, it was quite nice. It is quite nice, rather. And then this platform as a service, which sits in between infrastructure as a service and software as a service, what does it do? It essentially brings in that gap, or helps bridge that gap, wherein, for example, there is no suitable SaaS product that we have, or we have to have certain use case or business requirement which needs us to develop a application from scratch, or our cloud product doesn't really fit the use case, and we need to extend the cloud product. So where do we do these enhancements? And that's where the platform as a service comes in picture, wherein all uh, just like in addition to the infrastructure as a service, the platform as a service provider also provides us a runtime environment, middlewares, and operating systems. So we don't need to worry about all these aspects as well. All we need is a design to be ready, our developers to build the application, and design our own data model. So it's sort of a sits between somewhere software as a service and infrastructure as a service, but allows us the flexibility. So for me personally, I feel it gives us the same sort of a flexibility as a software as a service, all the benefits of it, but then also allows us the freedom to develop our own application relevant for our own use cases. So that was a pretty much just a quick context setting for the platform as a service. Again, platform as a service, for those who already are working or having exposure to some mature IT organizations, it's nothing new. Uh, as we could have observed in our experience for using a platform as a service, we the benefits are pretty straightforward. You get to have the spend as operational spend rather than capex spend. No heavy approval upfront. It's pretty easy for getting started with platform as a service. And we can scale it up, scale it down. We can, if some business problems comes in, we could easily spin up the environments and get the application built, deploy the application, show the prototype to the business user, potentially run a small prototype as well, sorry, a pilot as well. And once the pilot is successful for few geographies, then we can scale it up very very fast, depending on demand. So it's all those good things. Of course, like any other infrastructure as a service, we don't need to worry about what would be the DRS, and backups and load balances. That is all taken care by platform as a service. All we need to focus is our application development, and look at the use case and the user experience ultimately. Um, Innovation we have seen, again, I mean, similar to the prototyping, as I said, the new technologies, big data, whether it's IoT or machine learning, any of those technologies which allows us to innovate. I mean, going back to the dynamic marketplace requirement these days, we need to have that immediate innovation need as a business, and platform as a service, I think, sort of helps us there to mobilize our resources fast and get something tangible shown to our business users. So I think, definitely I would say innovation is the key driver for choosing platform as a service. And of course, it's one-stop shop for all our hardware software requirements. I will talk about that bit later detail. But I think to sum it all up, it's cost effectiveness, is agility, and its convenience, is what the today's businesses need, IT organization needs. And I think platform as a service definitely add them. And we have the giant players in this space. We have Oracles, and we have Azure and AWS, and Google, providing all these, along with their infrastructure services. They have platform as a services as well. But then if we are choosing a platform as a service provider, I think what we need to do is, we need to be very careful with what sort of provider that we are going along. because if the performance of the service provider is not reliable, or potentially the SLAs are not being met, then it could be a big headache for an IT organization to set expectation with our business counterparts, and it could go downhill pretty fast. So I think there has to be some cautions, maybe not downsides, but we have to be cautious about these facts. And of course, there are some regulatory requirements when you're going for one of the platform or service with one of the cloud providers. You probably would end up having some restrictions if you want to expand your European business and you want to expand in South Asia, for example. Uh, does your cloud provider has a data centers in that geography? That could be another challenge that you might have. And for those reasons, people are sort of thinking about going for multiple cloud providers who can give us platform as a service. But then for all those reasons, if we are going down to multiple cloud providers, it poses another set of challenges for us. For example, you would have multiple vendors to manage. They would have their own plans, their own restrictions, their own frameworks that they will come up with. And everyone in your developer organization would need to have a skill in that perspective. Cloud framework, and that means as an IT leader you need to have those skills maintained at all the times, and that probably would increase your cost. So that is one of the challenge. I mean, multi-cloud I think is not optional. It essentially needs to go for multi-cloud framework, but then multi-cloud framework poses these challenges, and what do we do with these challenges, to be honest? So that's where the multi-cloud provider platforms comes in picture. Platforms like Cloud Foundry, which is an open source platform created by Cloud Foundry Foundation. It's not the only one, but I think this is one of the most adopted platform, which allows us to mitigate those challenges listed here. How? We'll have a look very shortly. The Cloud Foundry essentially is just to give you a bit of a background. Is a foundation. It was contributed by a lot of big players. It's sponsored by likes of Microsoft, Google, SAP. It was initially called as Linux Foundation, and the idea was to they must have foreseen the challenges that multi-cloud environments will pose to adoption of platform as a service. So it was an idea floated around, I think, 2008, and then became a foundation in 2013, 14, and then really picked up big time. And almost 500, half of the 500 Fortune 500 companies, as you can see here, is now using Cloud Foundry in some shape or form. Which allows us, Cloud Foundry itself allows us to sort of develop and essentially manage the life cycle of a application, that is development, deployment, maintenance. And running an application on any of these open source technologies like Java, Spring, .NET, Node.js, etc. And that challenge that multi-cloud provides, like you have different developers, and each of the developer has to sort of you have to have a skill from each cloud platform framework, and that sort of goes away because the cloud platform sort of is a one-stop shop for all the cloud providers. And then it gives one unified interface, like for example, CLI, what it's called, it's called as Cloud Command Line Interface provided. It's an interface provided by the Cloud Foundry, and developers use this interface to interact, deploy their applications, run their application, maintain their applications. And then that's the power, that's the convenience, that's the developer experience that Cloud Foundry sort of brings to the surface. And where is the SAP in this picture then? And that's the point I want to jump on the next one. So SAP is also a contributor and sponsor of this open source platform, which is the Cloud Foundry platform. And SAP has its own implementation of this platform, like others as well. So I think other contributors has, like IBM has their own implementation, and SAP has their own implementation. So SAP has sort of adopted Cloud Foundry as an open source platform, and they are sort of promoting this platform. SAP Cloud Platform is as a platform as a service for their own existing customers, as well as non-SAP customers, the customers who are using SAP products, customers who are not using SAP products. So it's essentially for all. It's developed on top of Cloud Foundry, so it's open source, and in the only sort of difference between, let's say, IBM Cloud Foundry implementation to SAP Cloud Foundry implementation is SAP has come up with its own services, which generally can be seen as very value-adding services if we are using SAP's own products. But at the same time, it offers all the other services which any other member of the Cloud Foundry platform can offer as well. So that's a quick thing about SAP and SAP Cloud Platform. SAP Cloud Platform is relatively new. I mean, it's been renamed after 2011. It used to call as HANA Cloud Platform, and then now renamed in 2016 as SAP Cloud Platform. But it's already seen the growth. Already more than 7,800 customers are actively using applications they've deployed on Cloud Platform. Partners like us, more than almost touching 1,000 customers now, who are building apps and deploying the apps and extending SAP's products, or building a new use cases on a Cloud Platform. Cloud Platform offers app centers and stuff like that, where we as a partner can deploy the applications, and customers could consume those applications on a SaaS basis. So one of such so Cloud Platform is a ocean. There are lots of services that Cloud Platform offers. One of such service, which is integration service, that is offered by SAP, which is called as CPI, SAP Cloud Platform Integration component of SAP Cloud Platform offerings, has grown massively since, if you see in August 2020 report, it's already in a leaders quadrant and challenging Boomi and Informatica, who are sort of established players since a while in this quadrant. So integration wise, I think its adoption and penetration market is really, really high. But even for app development and extensions, it's been adopted, not at this space, but I think significant space. So that takes us into, I'm a bit conscious of time. I just want to make sure that we have enough time for the demo later. I'm just going to hurry up into just quickly. So the deep dive on Cloud Platform is essentially to show you an app development in action, or an app that we have developed, and we would like to show that app to you quickly. So I'm just going to quickly breeze through a few next slide, and we jump into demo. So what are the use cases, when to use SAP Cloud Platform, and why to use it? So I think I've covered few things already, but then specifically from the SAP Cloud Platform, whether you're a SAP customer or not a SAP customer existing, I think that the key part of SAP Cloud Platform is you can develop apps on enterprise grade apps. Recently, just to share with you, we have been part of the app development, which saw almost more than 3,000 business users using this app as a business critical app in a utility company, with connecting to almost 6 to 7 different source systems based on the microservices architecture, HANA DB. We'll talk about that potentially if you're interested in more details. But you can build enterprise grade apps and deploy it on SAP Cloud Platform without locking into any vendor. And the other use cases, such as the integration, whether it's with a SAP Cloud SAP products integration, on-prem to on-prem, on-prem to cloud, or it's a SAP to non-SAP integrations or non-SAP to non-SAP integrations. All those combinations. So integration-wise, if you want service bus, SAP has provided that on top of the cloud platform. I think that those are the use cases, or I would say the reason the cloud platform could come in play. And why SAP Cloud Platform is, I think the good thing about it is it's based on Cloud Foundry. So Cloud Foundry provides you infrastructure from any of the member uh, of the foundation. So whether it's a Google Cloud Platform, Azure, or AWS, anyone, you can subscribe to infrastructure from any of those providers infrastructure for your application development. All those services, software services this cloud offers, those can be availed through the SAP Cloud Platform. So it does come with all the benefits of Cloud Foundry, but on top of that, it also SAP has developed their own services, which, for example, for an SAP customer is the icing on the cake, for example. So it really brings in the ready-made content between SAP's cloud products to SAP's on-prem product, for example, or SAP cloud product to SAP's other cloud products, etc. And it does provide all the cutting edge services, for example, API management or IoT and blockchains and those kind of things. And I think from enterprise applications perspective, it also has now provided open connectors. I mean, I'm just calling a few of them. I mean, given the restriction of time, there are hundreds of services, and I'll share some URLs for you to maybe browse through the services offered by SAP. It's a growing platform. There is the strategic direction from SAP is to further invest into the cloud platform and grow this platform and sort of provide a single point of platform for the businesses. So those are the few benefits, I would say, why to use SAP Cloud Platform. And just for those who are already familiar with SAP Cloud Platform, it comes with the two sort of implementation. One is with the Neo version, and the other one is the Cloud Foundry version. But SAP has now confirmed that they will stop investing into Neo version. What is Neo version? Neo is basically SAP, when kicked off on the SAP Cloud Platform initiative, they had their own data centers, and those were the implementation on top of those data centers were called as Neo implementation. However, SAP has now realized that they need to probably go more open source and rely on the hyperscalers in the marketplace. So I think SAP is going to stop investing and support. Well, they still will support for the existing implementation, but I think they have stopped investing further into the Neo environment. So that's some few points about SAP Cloud Platform. I'm just going to quickly talk about how the cloud platform is. I'm going to show you in the system as well. So as a user, you have a cockpit, and you can be a part of multiple global accounts. So for example, I have my own Nandan's global account, I have my customers global account, and I'm part of this demo global account. So when I log in, I can see multiple global accounts. What is global account? Global account is essentially the level at which a customer is billed on. So you as a customer for SAP Cloud Platform, your billing will happen on a global account level. And then you would have a sub account, which is a regional level. So for each region, you can have a different sub account potentially. The sub account is essentially a tenant. So you can create tenants in your global account, which is called as sub accounts, and you could assign a space, for example, to that sub account. For space is nothing but like an environment or a subtenant, if you like to call it, and the subtenants or the tenants are or the environments are the other area where the services are consumed. So the database service or HTML UEFI application deployment service. So this is where the services and application are consumed. We'll see all this in action in a few minutes. What we have done, just to bring this to life, what we have done and give you some sort of a flavor of the use case. We have built an application. So this is a bit technical, but I'll try and make it as simple as possible. So the use case that we have built is taken a current situation in the world, which is COVID. You must have come across the lockdowns which is going on currently in England, and the effect of that for a company, for a utility company or a manufacturing company, our supply chain, as a business leader or supply chain manager, I do need to look at which area my supply chain is located, and what's the impact of that, which country my suppliers are based in, and how that country, for example, is doing. So we try to sort of build a use case on SAP Cloud Platform, which gives visibility to a supply chain manager on the impact of COVID and potential lockdowns in certain geographies, and warn the supply chain manager to potentially see the alternative for their supply, and stop the disruption of their production line, or whatever the business is. So what we are doing is, I'll talk about that application in a few minutes. What we have done is we have our S4 HANA development system. What we have done is we have consumed the NHS public API, which gives us the COVID data on daily basis. And what we have done is we have pulled the supplier data from our S4 HANA supply masters, and we pull that data into SAP Cloud Platform using something called as destination as a service. What is that? We'll talk about in a few seconds. We have this application that is built, supply chain disruption application, which has a UI layer, which is built on HTML5, an application layer which is built on Java application, Java Spring, and it runs on HANA DB. So that's an application for us. And then we have something called as app router, which is a SAP Cloud Platform's own sort of a component, which enables the what do you say, authentication and authorization part. When the user logs into the portal, the app router is the one which decides, first authenticates the user using, for example, any AD service provider. In this case, we have used Azure. So Azure directory, AD directory, AD is synced with our enterprise AD. That's how when we log in, the user is authenticated against our Azure Active Directory. Once authentication is done, this app router also provides authorization and manages the authorization for the user. That allows user to select certain functions and applications on the portal. And this is the use case. Basically, I wanted to sort of show you in live demo. So what we'll do, we'll look at the end product first, what we have built. Just quickly, we'll spend 1 minute on that. And then we go under the bonnet of that product and see how we use Cloud Platform to build this product. So I think from this point onwards, I will hand over or request my colleague Abhishek to share his screen, who will share the application with us. Abhishek. Perfect. Thank you, Abhishek. So this is the application that we have built, and just to share with you, this application, we sort of spent like a couple of days to build this application. It's not really the application that our focus is. It's actually the art of possibility, and the speed at which we can achieve it is what we want to sort of showcase here. And of course, we can what we are trying to showcase is here. I bought the data from my ERP. I bought the data from some public API, and merging that data to give some insight to the business user. So that's the concept that we are trying to realize here. So in this case, for example, I will select a country. As soon as I select the country, for example, England in this case, the API is bringing in the total cases in England. And at the bottom, so we see almost 12 million cumulative cases of COVID. This is a live interface. It's bringing in from NHS API right now. And at the bottom, what it does is it pulls the suppliers from my supplier database from my ERP, and it is categorizing those suppliers in red, amber, green sort of risk factors or risk categories, depending on the number of cases in the region. So a supplier is linked to a region, to a local authority and to a country. And the way I will, as a supply chain manager, I have logged into this portal. I've selected, let's say I'm a business where my supply chain is cross continent, cross country. So I select a particular country and then select, for example, in this case, London. If I go, possibly Abhishek, yeah. So in London, I can see the next box. The regional cases in London has now updated automatically. Now that is being pulled from the other API that NHS provides on the regional level. And I can then again see all my suppliers based out of London. What is their risk profile? I see 39 suppliers are there in London, and then I can just browse through the categories of which of these suppliers in London are the high risk, and things like that. So if I then go to the a specific local authority within London, for example, let's say Kensington and Chelsea, if I see I got one supplier there, and the number of cases in Chelsea are almost 2,000, so less than 4,000, which is my criteria for risking for risk category for the supplier. And I can see only one supplier, and that's also green. So if he's my strategic supplier, and if the supplier goes into lockdown and my production line come to the halt, or my maintenance per schedule will come to a halt, then I can immediately take some action. So if I go to some other area, for example, for let's say Red Bridge in this case, if you find it, yeah. So I see a couple of suppliers there, and the cases there in Red Bridge are more than 6,000, and I immediately see I need to do something about it, because the way the trend is, I can see they probably will go down into lockdown in pretty soon, things like that. So this is just again to bring something to life. Of course, you could build a lot on top of this. Like we can put a map and put heat maps of COVID cases on that. On top of that, we could pull the purchasing data for those suppliers from the system and see or do some analysis based on this many suppliers, this and review this data by purchasing spend instead of looking from the region perspective. But idea is to show how this works, and so that's an app. So what I want to do is just quickly go under the bonnet on the supply on the cloud platform. How did we sort of go about building this app? So this is our SAP Cloud Platform account, and we deliberately try to use a trial account just to show. If you go on the trial account, you could also um, essentially carry out the same app development that we just did. So this is our landing page. As I was suggesting, this is my trial home, and I'm into one of my sub account, or I'm looking at my global account, sorry. And these are the sub accounts, or these are the tenants, as I call them, on this cloud platform. So if you see at the bottom, I got two tenants for supply chain management non-prod environments, and supply chain management production environments. So the way I have created tenants is all my environments, non-productive environments, dev, quality, pre-prod, I've grouped them into one sub account, and my productive environments, I've grouped them onto another sub account. And sub account is essentially, if you can say, is a tenant. I could, if you observe here, the provider for the supply chain application is Amazon, and I've selected infrastructure based out of their Europe Frankfurt data center, and I've selected the provider there as Amazon. Whereas the other application, which is we are planning to give another demo in Singapore next month. We are planning to build that app there, and we have selected Azure infrastructure because Azure had the services that we wanted to build the application for, and for the latency purpose, for example, we wanted to make sure that we select the region which is close to where we are going to use that application for. So the point here I'm trying to make is you can create as many sub accounts as needed to your business requirements, and every sub account can have a different cloud provider, and you can select a specific region from that cloud provider, depending on what type of services that cloud provider sort of offers in that data center. So it's a combination of when you decide the infrastructure provider, you have to select it based on all this sort of a scenario. All these factors has to be taken in account. But the point is, SAP Cloud Platform allows us to have that flexibility, and we are not locked into one particular cloud provider. So in this case, let's go into inside the sub account of non-prod environment that we have, sort of a sub account that we have created for our application. And inside there, I could see, once it opens, something called as spaces. So spaces are nothing but like environments within that sub account. So here we can say we have created 3 spaces there, like a 3 environments, one for dev, one for quality, and then pre-prod. So what are spaces? The spaces is where I would deploy my app, I would consume my services, and I would sort of manage my data for that app on the spaces level. So if you recollect the diagram that I have shown, now we are within the sub account, we are at the space level, and now we're going to quickly show you the developer's experience. So let's stop here. What we have done is we have now created some spaces for our development, i.e. environments in a traditional context, and now we are going to show you, because the app was built by various different technologies, it has a application logic or application layer built in Java. So Abhishek had used Eclipse for that matter to build the Java code for this application, and from here Abhishek could either push this code to a Git repository, and from there we could bring in DevOps tools to push that code and deploy it on the cloud platform. Or Abhishek simply can select a code, build it here using his Maven build tools, and then there is the add-ons that Eclipse provide to deploy that build file on a cloud platform. Again, that's a CLI interface. The CLI, the cloud command line interface, provides an API which is consumed by Eclipse here as well. Similarly, so that was the Java development which we did for this application. Similarly, Dheeraj, for example, did the UI development. The UI development was done on something called as SAP Web IDE. So SAP has provided its own Web IDE, is a development environment. It's been replaced, by the way. It's been replaced by Business Studio, Business Application Studio, which is similar to the Visual Studio. But what we have used is the Web IDE environment. In here, if you see, there is a HTML5 code that Dheeraj has built. We could simply, the way we work with the Web IDE is the developer builds the code using IDE. For example, here Dheeraj can change the name of the code, for example, the application, and simply build the code here. Once this is done, once Dheeraj builds this code, it will generate something called as an entire file. And that MTA file with a new version, we can right click on it, and depending on the complexity of the environment, we can either push this development environment, we can push this to the GitHub, or we could push it directly to cloud platform. So it's as easy. So developer doesn't really need to think about, do I have a runtime environment available? Do I have a database there? All the developer has to do is build his app, bind services that needs to be used by the app, and deploy the app. So that's as easy it gets in terms of the application development and deployment. So that's a quick one which we wanted to show you as how the app is developer's experience look like, depending on what is the preference as a development tool for the developer. Now just let's go back and jump into our cloud platform. So let's pretend that we have deployed our build. So typically what developer will do is go back into the cloud platform, to sub account and the space in which they have deployed this build application. And if you see inside the space, now this is where your development environment is. In this environment, you can see these are 3 implemented or deployed instances of the app. The first one is the HTML5 app, which we have deployed. It shows stop because it only runs when it's deploying. Once it's deployed, it's just hosted, and it then doesn't need to run as such. But if you go inside the app, the instance of the app, you can see the app is deployed on environment which dynamically chosen by Cloud Foundry. So if you see, there is a file system which is a Linux-based Ubuntu operating system, which is dynamically selected by the platform and deployed by the platform. The build pack is identified automatically, whether it's a HTML5 code. So here it's a Node.js. It sort of flags that incoming build pack as a Node.js technology, and then it finds out the right runtime environment for it, and it deploys using a particular kind of virtual machine which is running Ubuntu on top of that. So similarly on a Java, if you the Java code which came from potentially from Eclipse, which was deployed here, you could see it's identified automatically by Cloud Platform as Java code, and it has been deployed to another Linux-based VM potentially. So that's essentially in a nutshell how the app gets deployed. And then we look at the last service there, which is something called as app router. So if you remember the diagram which I had shown you, the user, it's a gateway for user requests. So user, when logs in, the request is routed through this app router. So app router is a very specific service to Cloud Platform. What this service does is take that request from the user and then routes it to AD provider, and authenticate the user. In our case, it's Azure AD that we have consumed. And once the user is authenticated, even after that, the second step is authorization is decided as well. So if we click on top of that, we can see the service has been consumed, which is called as Access UAA service. When we click on that, we can also look at the roles that we have built for this app router service. So we can build an application role within this service, and in this case, our case, we have built some supply chain administrator and editors role in there, which is basically an application roles that can be assigned to the application, and the user can based on the authorizations and roles assigned to the user can interact with the business application. So that's very quickly about the roles. And if you see within the role, we have used a service called user account and authorizations, specifically SAP called as Access UAA. I mean, these are just terminologies. Basically, at the end of the day, it's a service which allows us to configure AD authentication to any AD provider, and allows us to manage the trust and manage the security and roles authorization, basically. So that's the services. So that takes us nicely into the last topic. I think I'm conscious of time. I think we are a bit over the time. But I'll just quickly cover the last bit, which is the services. So services is the most important part of the cloud. I.e., services are like a software services offered by the Cloud Platform, which you could subscribe to, and then once you're subscribed, it creates an instance. So there is a service marketplace where a lot of services available, like IoT, database, app management, API management, etc. For this particular app, we have sort of subscribed to 4 to 5 services that is shown in that drop down, which Abhishek is shown up. So we have consumed HTML5 repository, which allows us to host and run an HTML5 application. Then we have authorization and trust management service that I spoke about. And then destination services. Basically, the destination service is the service which allows us to define endpoints for the APIs that we're going to consume in the back in the application. And finally, we have a SAP HANA Cloud service. We are running out of time, so I'll try to probably just go directly to the HANA service. So if you select the HANA service here, Abhishek, we could show the database. So basically, SAP's proprietary database, which is HANA database. You can see on trial account you're entitled to use 120 gig of size of database, and from that database we can create our database instance. In our case, we have created used and created a database instance, and have linked that database instance to our app. In this case, if you look at the the instance of a database that we have used, we have created sort of a number of tables in this database, which I think Abhishek is just browsing to. And if you see, there are these tables which will appear in a second. Yeah, you can see city, country, regions, and suppliers are the tables that we are consuming in our application. So that's, I will struggle to talk about all the aspects. Every single service probably needs a separate webinar. But I think this in nutshell is how we build this app and how you work with the SAP Cloud Platform and consume various different services. We'll share the URLs that we've used in our demo with you, so that you can probably when you get a chance to probably explore these services and try it yourself. So with that, I will quickly hand over to Aishwarya for taking any questions or answers that we may have received, and try our best to answer those questions. Over to you,
Thank you,
Aishwarya.
Amit.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Amit. We will go ahead and take some questions for now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions in the chat box in your control panel. We'll wait for a couple of minutes till anyone like have questions, and meanwhile they type it.
Or maybe you can raise your hand, and we probably can unmute our users. That could
Yeah.
work as well. Yeah.
Um, so we have one question on the video available for this. So we are recording this session. So once that is done, we will email you the recording, the link of the recording.
Yeah, and it will also be available on our website, which we'll also share, so you can view it from there as well. We'll publish it in the next day or two, so you should be able to see it there.
Yes.
Thanks, Laura. I think it was Laura. You can see. Any more questions? Is there a
Yes, I'll also be dropping an email to all the attendees. If you have any question, you can straight away reply to the email which I'll be sharing. Will help you with all your queries and question over there as well.
perfect? I believe there are no further questions, or are there any raised hands or anything like that? I can't read.
No.
Okay, so we probably conclude the session if there are no further questions.
Yes. So I think there are no further questions coming for us to answer. So Amit and Chandan, is there anything else you would like to cover before we wrap up this session?
No, I think we are good. We'll look at the offline questions, and we'll take it from there.
Sure, great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. Thanks again for joining us today for our today's webinar. We will see you with next time with our upcoming webinars. I'll keep you posted. Thanks for joining. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining,
Yeah.
everyone. Have a good weekend.